Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's enjoying day two of the CWMA spring training. I'm very happy to be on here again and introduce Corteva Agriscience again and introduce myself, Katie Koenig. So I know I've been on here. I was on here yesterday and I was on here for the winter conference. And so that was my first time getting to interact with you guys in the CWMA. Fortunately, we're still virtual, but at least we're all going to get together and learn about some new products and hopefully learn a lot of good, valuable information. I just started with Corteva in October 1st of 2020. And on the screen, you'll see what my territory looks like. I currently live in a small town, Sidney, Nebraska, but I also cover Western Nebraska, Western Kansas, and all of Colorado. And so my job, my territory encompasses all of range and pasture, as well as the land management IVM portfolio. And so I'm starting to get out and meet more of you, and I'm enjoying everyone that is reaching out to me. And so hopefully we're going to talk about some good products today and give you guys some valuable information. So what we're going to talk about mainly today is TVC, or total vegetative control. And we have a lot of really good products out right now on the market in general, not just with Corteva, that are really good options when it comes to TVC, bare ground. And so I want to really highlight on one product that we have right now called Cleantrax. Cleantrax is a herbicide with over 50 broadleaf and annual weeds on the label, and some woody brush seedlings when applied as a pre-emergence and early post-emergence. So you have that capability as a pre and a post application for, like I said, bare ground, along roadsides, railroads, and utility rights-of-ways. Cleantrax is an SC formulation containing two active ingredients. And so those two active ingredients are Penoxylum, and then it shows that there's 0.083 pounds of active ingredient per gallon, and the Penoxylum is an ALS herbicide with broad spectrum weed control, and then oxafluorophene has 3.96 pounds of active ingredient per gallon, and it's a PPO inhibitor herbicide, and it has been a long time standard for broad spectrum weed control. Getting more into our first active, Penoxylum, it is a group 2, like I said previously mentioned, it's an ALS mode of action. And so that's what makes Cleantrax such a great component to any bare ground or TVC, is that it has two modes of actions, two active ingredients. And so you're mixing up your chemistry when you're incorporating these into your programs. It's designated as a reduced risk herbicide, so pre and post emergent activity, like I said, and it was developed and used primarily in the rice market. So I know we've talked about Duracor and Rinskor, and so very similar. Rinskor is an ALS mode of action, and it came from the rice market as well. And so when we talk about Penoxylum, it has been used in over 35 different countries globally in the rice market. This active has also been registered in the turf and ornamental as well as in aquatics. So very, very safe around sensitive sites. Our next active is oxafluorophene. It's a group 14, a PPO mode of action, pre and post emergent activity as well. It's used primarily in the tree and vine market, and it's also used for a burn down or in the fallow market and row crops in the US. So again, these two actives combine to create Cleantrax is why we use and suggest Cleantrax as such a great resistant management program with those two different modes of action. And it's very important to always try and change up your chemistry constantly when we're battling, for instance, like resistant species like mare's tail and fleabane. So getting into like the broad spectrum weeds control, we have over 50 broadleaf and grass species on the label, and you can go through the label and see more what would best fit your need and that you're wanting to address. And it has a burn down and season-long residual control. Excellent conifer safety. So it's one of the best products out there that you can try and use around tree species. In California, we use them a lot around ornamentals or fruit trees. And so excellent conifer safety when applied both pre-bud break to early post-bud break over Douglas fir. And you can see ponderosa pine, redwoods, western larch, and plus many other intolerant species such as sugar pine, incense cedar, and white fir, both pre-bud break to post-bud break. Tank mix compatibility can be tank mix with other herbicides with no compatibility issues, outstanding environmental and toxicological profile. The other benefits to Cleantrax is the caution word is signal, and the use sites are pretty wide range. You can go from non-crop areas like railroad, roadsides. We have a guy who is designated for railroad across the U.S. as a territory manager, and Cleantrax is one of his staples that he always has in the toolbox when he's going out and recommending the best TVC bare ground control around railroads. Utility rights of ways. I know I talked yesterday about the importance of being in these urban areas and having good chemistry and good chemicals that you know that you can stand behind. And so when we talk about utility rights of ways, industrial sites, tank farms, storage areas, airports, solar and wind, energy fields, telecommunication pads. And so you can see on a picture here on the left, this is taken in California, of herbicide used on orchard next to roadsides. General guidelines for Cleantrax. So I really want to emphasize how important. So when we talk about TVC, our base to our TVC and bare ground is always going to be milestone and open site. And so when we incorporate Cleantrax, that's what makes the mix so well. So the general rule of thumb is always to apply Cleantrax at 3 to 4.5 pints per acre in the fall or early spring for pre or post-emergence weed control. So right now we're in like the optimal time, April through June, or then when we start getting later into like July and August. For effective post-emergence control, always add a surfactant at a minimum of 1 quart per acre, MSO, crop oil, or 25% of an 85% active non-ionic surfactant. So depending on your mixes or what you're doing, you can go based off that as well. So the opportunities are pretty much endless, but the ones that I really wanted to point out that I've come to know for Colorado is the bare ground and TVC market. So railroad, roadsides, wind and solar energy, and it looks like we have a lot of opportunities around the airport as well. And then again, just being able to rotate this in the tank every couple of years, you're guaranteeing a good resistance management strategy. And that's just good stewardship for us to constantly be doing this year after year after year. And to improve, we've got to have a good resistance management strategy. And that Cleantrax really fits into that really well. So the Colorado programs that I would recommend, when we go around sensitive sites, like I said, I'm always going to recommend starting out with open site or a milestone in the tank. So if you're doing the 7 ounces of milestone, you could also do 3.3 ounces of open site, whatever you think would be better. I know milestone is more user-friendly because it is liquid. So when we talk about sensitive sites, 7 ounces of milestone with 48 ounces of Cleantrax. And so that allows you to get all the way up next to like the water's edge if you're going to be spraying around riparian areas or anything like that. For broadleaf and annual grass control, 7 ounces of milestone as well with 48 ounces of Cleantrax. And when we're talking about grass, I like put this in the next one, the broadleaf and annual grass and perennial grass. Don't be afraid I'm not afraid to recommend adding in Arsenal or Esplanade in the tank as well. So great options here that I would recommend every day of the week if we're talking about TVC or bare ground. Good management practices just to remember with Cleantrax. Again, great tank mix partner, but we always recommend shake container well. Don't leave the product in the tank overnight because it is an SC formulation. It will settle, and so you want to constantly keep that circulated. And like I said, don't leave it in the tank overnight or it will settle. And you always want to triple rinse your jugs right away. Kind of to wrap it up, Bo Miller is our rep in California, and he's been like the stakeholder to Cleantrax and has really got Cleantrax on the map. And so I'm going to let him talk a little bit about what he's been able to do and what he's seen in his market.
I see a lot of value in adding different modes of action into the bare ground herbicide program. Resistance is a huge issue, and that's the only way to really handle that problem.
Adding new modes of action, new herbicides is critical to managing the rights of way that we have to manage across the United States. Maybe you've used an active ingredient for 4 or 5 or 6 years. It's a great product. Let's steward it and rotate it with something else and put multiple modes of action in the tank.
We've learned in the past where we would stick to a couple different kind of chemistries, and we've gotten huge monocultures just aren't affected by it.
Cleantrax offers 2 new modes of action we haven't seen in this business. Cleantrax is a PPO inhibitor. It's a ALS inhibitor working post and pre to manage resistance as well as to get season-long weed control, and that's our objective.
You get all sorts of new species coming in, invasive species coming in, and so one product won't always work. There is no silver bullet. We're using it in a lot of the sensitive areas. We're going through the cities, and you have a lot of different kind of ornamentals that are growing in the area. It seems like it holds pretty long, especially when you're using it with Milestone. I've had really good control.
The combination of open site and Cleantrax broadens the spectrum of control, so now we start to pick up some woody species. There's also an additional compound in there that allows us to have just a little better residual control on certain key broadleaf weeds.
Everybody will have different weeds they'll be battling resistance with by region or geography, but in general, the best way we've found to manage that is rotation of chemistry and new chemistry. What I've seen Cleantrax really kind of build itself to be is that foundation product in a program that I tank mix with.
Anyway, thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to be on here live, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.